make you feel like your most authentic self. It's your sanctuary, it's your safe place, and a place where you want to be yourself. And I think sometimes people get so caught up in being on trend or doing things because we believe that other people will like it. But ultimately, that's the place that you're going to be spending all of your time. And it should be somewhere that you feel is expressing yourself and feels like home.
Hi, I'm Beth, the founder of More Time to Design and your host of the Design Dialogues podcast. I've been a designer for the last 12 years and I've run my own studio for 5. And I know how hard it is to run a successful business. You not only need to be great at designing, but you need to be great at all the other things as well. I created More Time to Design, a software platform to help designers run efficient studios, and I've created the Design Dialogue podcast to help us all learn together. Each week, we will meet professionals who are at the top of their game doing things that help us run our studios. We'll have conversations with social media managers, interior design mentors, copywriters, stylists, photographers, suppliers, and also designers who have been in the game for a long time and who have such a wealth of knowledge to share. I hope that each week you feel inspired and informed at the end of each of our design dialogues. So join me for the Design Dialogue podcast. Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Design Dialogues podcast. This week I am joined by Zoe Fitchett from Wind and Water Interiors. Hi Zoe.
Hey Beth, thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you here. So to start with, I love to ask, what can you see out your window today?
Well, I'm in beautiful sunny Perth. So today it's a lovely day, got blue skies. And I'm just kind of looking into the next door office, to be honest. It's not an amazing view.
Well, it looks lovely and sunny, so that's at least the start.
Yeah, no, it's good. Lovely here.
So you are an holistic interior designer, and I was intrigued when I saw this because I was like, oh, what exactly does that mean? So can you tell me a little bit about, I suppose, about your business and how you've gotten to where you are today, but also what is a holistic interior designer?
Okay, I feel like they're both big questions. So maybe I'll start with where I began, and then we can go into the holistic side because that will kind of lead into it. But basically, I didn't start off in design at all. I think for many people, you find design a bit later, and I was one of those people. I actually started in the film industry, doing like production work, and I don't know, I thought it was going to be really glamorous and creative and, all those things that you think about the film industry. And when I got there, I was just, I wasn't fulfilled and I wasn't loving it. And I think I wasn't passionate about it like I thought I would be. And that was hard because I'd worked for a few years trying to get to that point and being excited, and then getting there and being like, oh, this isn't what I want.
Yeah.
And then being conflicted because I didn't know what else I wanted to do. And so my partner at the time had asked me, what would you do if you weren't in the film industry? And I had to go back to the drawing board because I had no idea. And, I had interests and, things that I like to do, but had never really explored them. And funnily enough, interior design was not something I even knew existed when I was in school. I've heard of architecture and engineering and all those sorts of things, but I didn't come from a mathematical or kind of physical realm in terms of being able to put those things together. And so when I did some research, I was looking at various topics, and I found the Interior Design Institute, and I decided to do a course with them. And when I was doing it, it was something that I just really loved, and I guess I just lost myself in it. And I think that's when you know that you're passionate. You could be sitting there for hours and you don't even realize that the whole day's gone by. And and I was like, okay, well, this is a good sign, I guess. And from there, I then decided that I wanted to go and open my own business. And that was during COVID. So that was quite hard.
Yes, interesting times.
Yes, yeah, exactly. For everyone, it was all a bit challenging. But I got my first client and she was amazing. She was, super easygoing and very open to ideas. And, that's always great as a designer to have someone like that. And then when that project finished, she actually introduced me to my design mentor. And from there, she helped me a lot with, giving me guidance on business stuff and pricing and what to expect in the industry. So that was amazing. And she actually introduced me to a builder who I then started working for. They were a builder cabinet maker.
Yeah.
And that was a really amazing experience for me. Being able to learn the whole kind of from design through to renovation and cabinet making. It was like I got the full package essentially. And just having like the information about, cabinetry design, the small details, all of that stuff that you wouldn't really know unless you worked for someone like that.
Yeah.
So I got that more tangible experience, I guess, hands-on experience. And that's really helped me with my business today, having that knowledge and understanding of, things always run over, like, these trades and, stuff like waterproofing and drywalling and all those like things that you probably don't really know from your design side. But so that was a really great experience for me. And then how I then incorporated the holistic side, because you're probably like, how did that come into it? Was 5 years ago, I did a yoga teacher training. And that was a really great, amazing experience for me as well, where I met some really inspiring women and kind of initiated my passion for spirituality and, energy and that sort of thing. So from there, I've kind of explored more, the feng shui and, mindful design and creating those spaces. So that kind of leads us into the holistic interior design phase.
Yeah, wow. Because I do wonder, like, what came first, like chicken and egg kind of thing. Like, and it sounds very much that the holistic part, or the holistic, I suppose, principles was already part of your life and something that you already kind of lived by in a way. And so then to integrate that into your design practice makes total sense. So tell me, when we say holistic design principles, what are we talking about?
Okay, so for me, holistic interior design is like taking into account the emotional and energetic aspects of design, as well as the kind of physical and aesthetics. Because, you want to make an impact on your health and well-being of the people that are living in that space. And I think that's really important to take into account. Because personally, I really believe that your home should make you feel amazing and also make you feel like your most authentic self. It's your sanctuary, it's your safe place and a place where you want to be yourself. And I think sometimes people get so caught up in being on trend or doing things because we believe that other people will like it. But ultimately, that's the place that you're going to be spending all of your time. And it should be somewhere that you feel is expressing yourself and feels like home.
Yeah, right. And so when like a client first comes to you, are they do they seek you out because you do apply these principles to your design, or is it something that you kind of just weave into all of your designs?
That's a good question. I haven't had it. I think it's a mixture. So some clients come to me and they'll have a knowledge a bit about feng shui and they'll kind of say, oh, like, oh, should we put the mirror there because isn't that bad feng shui? Or, and I'll try and in every project that I'm doing is research and make sure what I'm doing is going to align with those practices.
Yeah.
So it's not specifically like, oh, we're looking for a feng shui consultation or anything like that. It's more, I'll just try and incorporate little things here and there, like whether it's indoor plants for like the biophilic design side of things, or sustainable materials, because that's another side of it as well. But yeah, there's so many different aspects of holistic design, and that's probably a whole different podcast. But
and so you touched on it just then. So what is biophilic design? Because that's another term that we kind of hear around. And how is it different from holistic design, or is it kind of one of many principles kind of under the holistic design umbrella?
Yeah. So biophilic design is the relationship between nature, human biology, and building design. So biophilic design can be done on its own, separate from holistic design. But personally, that's something that I want to incorporate into my holistic approach. So it can be either, essentially. And what that means is many different things within biophilic design. So, indoor plants, or bringing nature indoors through the use of mirrors of, nice views, or, big windows, which are overlooking like a beautiful garden, or the mountains, or wherever you are. Even, stuff like artwork, or like lovely wallpapers and stuff like that, to incorporate nature too, through pattern and form and stuff like that. So there's many different ways. And natural light, of course, everyone loves natural light. That's a big one too.
And so when you are kind of working with a client, how do you go about getting them to think about these kind of like elements that they should be including in their design?
Well, it depends on the client. And I guess the way I go about it is working out how they want that space to feel.
Yeah.
So the conversation is more about, what they're wanting to feel in that space, what's the energy, and then working on trying to incorporate colors as well that are going to work in with that feeling. So if they're wanting to be more grounded and calm, more blues and greens, or if they're wanting to feel energized and rejuvenated, maybe like more reds and orange colors. So they've all got different kind of meanings as well. So it just depends on the feeling that you're looking for.
And is that, I suppose, because obviously, like, when I'm talking to my design clients, we talk about how they use the space, and I suppose the feeling of the space comes into that as well. But I suppose, is that one of the biggest, not differentiators, but I suppose one of the biggest things that kind of sets apart something that does have a holistic design kind of overview, is that we're not just talking about the function of the room, and we're not just talking about how the room looks, but we have that third element of, well, how do I feel in the space?
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is where mindfulness spaces come in, and this is where feng shui comes in, because in my home I have almost like not an altar, but I have a special area that I use for my spirituality practices, like meditating and yoga. And I think this is why my house feels, inviting and cozy and warm, because I fill that space with the energy that I'm wanting for that area.
Yeah.
And where feng shui comes into this is, feng shui talks about qi, which is energy, the positive energy flow. And so if you go into someone's house, which is super cluttered and dirty, and you walk in and you're literally just like, you have that bad feeling, don't you? You're like, something's off, but I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
And I think people don't realize how much that can impact your mental health and well-being. Like, by just simply cleaning and decluttering your home, you will feel so much lighter, you'll feel rejuvenated, like you have this new sense of like refreshment almost. And what happens with clutter is that negative, stagnant energy is just sitting there, kind of accumulating. And then, you know, it kind of happens around the whole house. But when you're decluttering, you've got to remember it's not just doing your living room or doing your bedroom. You know, it's really going into places like under your bathroom sink in your vanity, or, you know, where your herbs and spices are, like all of your containers, like all of those places that you just kind of like chuck stuff in. Or everyone has that room that they just like chuck all the junk in because they don't want to face it. Like that has a negative impact on how you feel.
And I suppose as interior designers, like so much of what we do is to help our clients live better lives. Like, and I suppose one of those things, like I had to laugh when you talked about the pantry, because, you know, so often you'll see these beautiful kitchens and they're like magazine worthy, and then you open the doors and it's like stuff's falling out and it's like, you know, chaos. And you can imagine that feeling of what it's like living with that. Like you'd go, oh, I don't want to cook. I don't want to, like, I'll just close the door because it'll be easier. And so I suppose when you are like, for example, if you're designing a kitchen, yes, it's very much like, I'm sure all good designers, they think about, well, we'll put some extra storage in and all that kind of stuff. But are you going to almost another level with your clients by going, okay, let's really think about how you're going to set up this pantry so that there's a place for everything that you can think of and all of that kind of stuff, so that when you come into this space and you want to cook and you open those doors, it is just calm. And it is, you know, it's not just calm the first day you set it up, but it's calm 12 months later, because you don't have to think about where to put the spices, because there is literally a place for everything.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's where functionality ties in too. So they kind of go hand in hand, and organization, obviously. But yeah, when you open up a cupboard and all of your spices are everywhere, you just have this instant feeling of like frustration, because you're like, I can't find the spice, like, where is it? And then you end up buying double ups of all the spices because you're not organized. And so having a spot for everything and really getting into the detail is such a massive thing as well. And I guess that goes into pretty much every room, you know, that and as a designer, that's what we do so much, is looking at the finer details that maybe our clients aren't thinking about.
Yeah, definitely. And so then, and you're right, like so much of this is kind of what interior designers do. It's like almost an extra extension of that function that we look at when we're designing. But if there is like a designer that's listening to this and they're like, oh, I'd really like to kind of implement this strategy or, you know, these concepts or principles into my design practice, what are kind of some of the, I suppose, things that you would encourage them to kind of start thinking about, kind of just as kind of top level things to implement?
So I guess it depends on which direction they want to go into, but whether they were wanting to do more biophilic design, if they're not, probably, I don't know, people call woo-woo is me. Biophilic's probably a good place to start. That's more nature and working with natural light and those sorts of things. That's a good place to start. And then I guess sustainability as well. So personally, within my design practice, I, you know, paperless as much as possible. I want to try and reduce waste as much as possible and use materials that are sustainable. So just those small things that you can start implementing in your design process would make a massive impact. And if you do like stuff like Feng Shui, then that can be great too, like reading up on it. You know, there's loads of great books on decluttering and space clearing and mirror placements, all those like small tiny things that can really make a difference. And at the moment, I'm actually doing a diploma in it. So I'm really excited to kind of have that and add that to my services as well.
Yeah, wow. Awesome. I imagine this has a real impact as well in corporate and workplace settings. And for people who are doing those kinds of designs, like, if you are a doctor's surgery or, maybe a psychologist's room or a dentist or something like that. I imagine a lot of these principles come into play for those kind of designs as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you think about an office that has no plants or no color and is just gray and black and white, like how does that make you feel?
Yeah.
It makes you feel really like heavy and just a bit like very stagnant and, not a good feeling. Whereas when you walk into an office that has lots of greenery and plants and has a bit of color, that kind of adds another feeling. And, those elements can really change the way that environment feels.
Yeah.
And especially like you're talking about like psychology offices as well. Like obviously you want your clients to feel comfortable and calm when they come in there. You don't want them to feel like on edge or uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I haven't worked so much with commercial spaces, but I can definitely see there being a need for it and important for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Like I imagine, like as we were saying before, like it is that kind of third element of interior design, like aesthetics, form, function, and feeling. And, just like in a residential setting, like obviously like a kid's bedroom or like certain rooms of the house, like you mentioned, like your yoga studio and all that kind of stuff. There are very like quite strong emotions that you want to evoke in those rooms. So yeah, I can imagine in like a workplace setting where similarly you want to evoke those same kind of strong emotions, whether it's calm or relaxing kind of thing. So yeah, it's really interesting, I think, how this could be applied to those settings.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell me, where and who do you draw inspiration from for your interior design work?
I mean, I guess this is a pretty basic one, which most people do. But Instagram for a lot of designers. And yeah, Pinterest for inspiration, I guess, when I'm starting a new project and I'm just trying to put together a concept board for a client. That will be my starting point. And then from there, once I've got the vague idea about what the design's going to look like, I'll go to tile shops and fabric shops and go to showrooms and really explore and draw inspiration from there too. And I mean, obviously nature, because it's just such a great place to get inspiration, whether that's, going for a walk by the ocean or a swim or, I just find like a place of calm and inspiration, I guess, for sure.
That's awesome. And tell me, what are you looking forward to in the next 12 months for your business?
So I sort of touched on this earlier, but I'm really looking forward to finishing my Feng Shui diploma. I think that will be really good to add to kind of my services and be able to be fully, I guess, knowledgeable in the area. Obviously I've done lots of reading and stuff on it already, but I just want to be able to have that diploma behind me as well. And then I guess another one is seeing all of my completed projects come to an end, like there's nothing more satisfying for me than seeing my clients delighted at the end, So I can't wait for those to come to an end and see what happens next, I guess.
Yeah, awesome. And how can our community reach out and find you, especially if they want to learn a little bit more about holistic design? Where is the best place to find you?
So you can find me on my website, which is www.windandwaterinteriors.com. So I've got a blog there. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, LinkedIn, pretty much all of them.
All the places.
All of the places. So yeah, you can, message me through any of those platforms, and yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. And we will link to all of those in the show notes for everyone. Zoe, thank you so much for our chat. It has been great. I have definitely learned now what holistic design is, and also biophilic design, because I wasn't really clear on that before. So thank you.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this design dialogue. I hope you have found it full of inspiration and helpful information to take into your design studio. If you like the podcast and want to hear more, consider sharing it or writing a review, as it helps us reach more people, and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. If you would like to unlock the power of effortless studio management and elevate your design business to new heights, please follow the links in our show notes to see how more time to design can help you build a better business. Have a great week, and I will see you for our next design dialogue.